Hello, boys and girls. Welcome back. It's me, Tsufit, and I'm reading to you Step into the Spotlight, a guide to getting noticed. There may or may not be a few little annotations on the way, a few little personal updates, so stick with me here. We are finally on chapter 4, count them, 4, starting on page 91 of the book. If you're following along, you can see in the show notes how to get your own copy of the book to do that. This chapter is called, is this thing on? Are you being heard? Walk into any nightclub in North America on open mic night, and chances are you'll catch a struggling, not necessarily young comedian dying on stage. As the guy stares into a sea of blank faces, he taps on the microphone and utters the classic cliche, is this thing on? Walk into any Chamber of Commerce breakfast networking event at 7 a.m. and you'll see the same ocean of faces as Johnny Entrepreneur introduces his business. Hi, I'm John Smythe of Bore Me Some More Me and Snore. My company specializes in the facilitation of soft skill solutions in a proactive environment and strategies, and I'm the project manager. We're a one-stop shop for small to medium-sized business. If you have ever heard that, stick with me, because that's what people sound like at these networking events. And then they wonder why they don't get business. Blah, blah, blah. Hitting the snooze button. Remember the old Peanuts TV specials where the teacher speaks to Charlie Brown in class and all we hear is, wah, 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 right? It's unbelievable to me how many business people introduce themselves like that. The goal is to cut through the noise, not add to it. I often open my speaking engagements with that spoof, boring speech that you heard there, and then I crumple a piece of paper and I throw it into the audience. And a few people get it. Some people believe me and think I'm really like that, and they're so relieved when I crumple it and throw it in the audience. And I start my speaking engagements like that as well. Speaking engagements, 30 seconds, whatever it is, because I have to show people the contrast, right? Once they see that I'm kidding, they breathe a sigh of relief and they have a good laugh. And you know what? I've got them. After that, I've got them. Because many of them don't realize that they actually sound like that. What to say and how to say it. In my house, we did not miss an episode of The Apprentice. Now, whether you like him or you don't, the Donald knows how to play the star. Who else would have trumpets heralding his entrance into the boardroom and a throne on stage on which to set his patootie? And he parlayed that into a presidency, so it worked. But in one of the episodes, he fires this chick, Angie, because she messed up her presentation to a bunch of clothing executives because she choked. No matter where you fall on the, like him or don't scale, you got to admit the guy has a point. It doesn't matter if you're the best darn accountant on this side of the Tallahassee River. In business, if you don't know what to say, if you don't know how to say it, forget about it. You're done. You might as well go home. You might as well take your marbles and go home. Presidencies have been won and lost on showmanship. And you know what? I wrote this book 8 years before the presidency was won on that kind of showmanship. Talk about... Okay, won't go there. 30 seconds of fame. Don't believe everything you hear. Business people love to tell you it's all about long-term relationships. You can't get a new client in just 30 seconds. Well, it ain't necessarily so. I attract more than half of my clients, or at least I did, in just 30 seconds. And it's not just the Vogue supermodel looks, although that helps. It's because I knew from TV commercials that you could. I knew it was possible. It's like that 4-minute mile thing, right? For thousands of years, people thought, you can't run a 4-minute mile. Your body's going to simultaneously combust. You're going to explode. You're going to die. Until Roger Bannister did it in 1954. 46 days later, another guy did it. A year later, 300 other people did it. Let me be your Roger Bannister. You can get a new client in just 30 seconds. For me, the long-term relationship, that starts after they become my client. Romeo said, let lips do what hands... What do you say? Romeo said, let lips do what hands do. Shakespeare understood the power of words to seduce. Turn on the tube. Look how many TV commercials you see that are really just 30 seconds long. Our parents were always telling us to watch less TV and do something useful for our time. But for entrepreneurs, watching TV was a really good training, a great training. How could we do better infomercials for our business? Well, by making them less info and more commercial. It's a show, it's a mini show. Why? Because all business is show business. The 3 Ds of opening your mouth in public. In business, as in show business, there are 3 basic rules for attracting an audience. Number 1, don't bore them. Number 2, don't bore them. And number 3, for God's sakes, don't bore them, right? Just because you're in business doesn't mean you've got to be boring. David Ogilvy, big ad guru, said, you cannot bore people into buying. Don't let them turn the channel on you. It's like your audience has a remote. So when a realtor stands up and says, now's a really good time to buy or sell a house because mortgage rates are low, what do? Be honest. You pull out your remote and you stick her on mute. Or you plan what you're going to say. But next, you're not listening. Be a tough act to follow. In comedy duos, usually one guy's the straight man, and his job is to set up the other guy for the punchline. Make sure you're not the straight man. It's like that volleyball thing, the spike, right? You throw it up in the air and some other guy comes and slams it over the net. What you're really doing is setting up an opportunity for somebody more interesting than you to score. Don't be doing that, right? When I'm in, one of those situations where they go around the room, I don't do it anymore, but when I used to, in 30 seconds for every person, I wasn't satisfied until the next guy after me said, well, that's a tough act to follow, right? Don't be that guy. How do you get your act together? There are basically 2 elements for a spectacular show, and I'm not talking popcorn and milk duds, although that never hurts. You need to have a great script and a great performance. So let's start first talking about the script. Yakety yak. You're at a networking event. Up stands Yakety Yackerson, followed by Blah Blaherson. Then there's time for the keynote speaker, bore me some Morrison. How do you make sure that you're not one of them? Well, remember, all business is show business. Don't be stepping onto the stage with a lousy script. Be careful what words you use. Don't be using words like technology, effective solutions, value propositions, deliverables, advanced best customer service, module, HR, IT, communications, integrated corporate systems, soft skills, core competencies. We service small to medium-sized businesses for all your blah, blah, blah needs. What do these words and phrases all have in common? They're boring, they're colorless, they're flavorless, they're meaningless filler. We don't know what you mean. We don't believe you anyway. But most importantly, we can't see them. Why do the phone companies use cute little monkeys and frogs and geckos in their ads? Why? Because you can't see phone service. You can't see it. We need to create a visual for our audience. We have to add color every single time we speak, every time we open our mouths in public, so people can see what we're saying. We have to create pictures with our words. And we've got to lose the professionalitis. Speak to the audience with the same kind of language and the same kind of tone that you would use speaking to your best friend. Forget the corporate gobbledygook and don't be worried about sounding professional, right? When in doubt, ask a kid. Kids know how to speak. They have a natural born immunity to corporate speak until they reach their early 20s and find a real job, and it's all downhill from there. Speak to them like I'm speaking to you now, yes? And don't overeducate. In an infomercial situation, you only have about 30 seconds. Don't spend more than 5 seconds on information and use the rest to convey a feeling. And by the way, I'm reading to you now. I'm reading from my book, and I want it to be more or less what the book says. So this really isn't the best example of me speaking directly to you. But when you are speaking to an audience, speak to the audience. Don't be reading. About 8 months into this business networking circus, I kept hearing about critical illness insurance, mainly from one insurance agent who spent all of her time promoting it. Finally, I realized it was a great product and I bought it. Not from her, right? Not from her. I bought it from another insurance agent. Why? Because I liked him. And so what good did it do her for going around advising me and educating everybody about this critical illness insurance? You have other stuff to communicate other than the information. In addition to the benefits of your product, you've got to communicate stuff like warmth, like trust, like credibility, like likability, right? Let's slip into something more comfortable. I read a television production book that discussed planning camera shots. It told the story of a full production TV show that decided to scale back to a one-man show, one-man camera. And you know what? Guess what happened? Both the viewership increased and the sponsorship increased. In a world of razzle-dazzle, this is surprising. The producer's take on it was that the change made the programmer, the performer, want to project more intimacy. He spoke directly to the audience. He was warmer, he was more intimate because the format forced that on him. And he couldn't rely on the production value to connect, so he had to connect himself. No amount of technology, no amount of slick, no amount of glitz, no amount of professionalism can hold a candle to the power of creating a real connection. You hear me? The so what factor. When we speak, our audience is scanning our speeches, just like medical detectives you see on the beach looking for jewelry on a summer evening. The beach people are looking for gold rings that somebody might have lost in the sand. Your audience is looking for gold nuggets of wisdom for relevance to their lives, to their business. If they don't immediately detect the relevance, they say or they think, so what? If you don't spontaneously answer this question for your audience, answer this question before they even ask it, you've given them a perfect reason to turn the channel on you. Remote control. There's a reason they call it a remote control. Whoever has the remote has the control. So give them the answer, but be careful how you do it. Don't bang them on the head with it. Shopping for benefits. Contrary to what they teach in Marketing 101, don't be giving us a shopping list of your benefits. What kind of lousy script is that? Me, I'd rather spend 2 hours in a dentist chair listening to Barry Manilow than be trapped in a room full of people spouting their benefits out all over the place. They're the same people who will force feed you a brochure or 2 or 10 just in case you want to run right home and read all about their business. Don't feel stupid if you've done it. We've all done it. I've done it. But it doesn't make people want to come to you. It doesn't attract people to you or to your business. It's not what makes you a star. We need to learn how to entice, not chase, our prospects. Don't say you're the best. Why? Because number 1, everybody says it. Number 2, it's probably not true. Number 3, even if it is true, we don't believe you anyway. And number 4, don't worry about it. Why? Because we don't necessarily buy the best. I know this is news to you, but it's true. We're not always looking for the best. A few years ago, I was looking for a photographer to do my actors' headshots and also some shots for my CD promotion. The one I ended up choosing was not, in my opinion, the best. So why did I choose her? Because I liked her. I liked her on the phone. She was excited about my project. She sounded enthusiastic to run around with me, to go to beaches, even to scout out locations. And that's what she was selling, her enthusiasm, her flexibility. Maybe we want the nicest, maybe we want the most easygoing, the warmest, the most colorful, the most flexible, the most unique. It's not necessary, ain't necessarily so. It's not necessary that we want the best. We're not attracted to perfection. Look at singers, often the most famous, the most beloved are not the best. Rod Stewart, he's like 99. He's going on stage with a walker. He's still churning out hit albums, right? Who's sexier, a male department suit model or Johnny Depp, right? I rest my case. So in chapter 3, we talked about what you're really selling, and I did this whole spiel about Coca-Cola and Harley. But let me tell you what you're really selling. What you're really selling is you. You. Y-O-U-U. Joe Girard, who can legitimately call himself the greatest salesman in the world since the Guinness Book of World Records, gave him that title 12 years ago. He owes his success to one simple philosophy. You're selling you, especially when you're an entrepreneur. By the way, it's easier to be a star if you think of yourself as an entrepreneur, even if your employer is your only client. You're on the front lines. What you see is what you get. Let's hope they like what they're seeing. You're not going to get them to like you by professing your sincerity or by saying, I'm really passionate about this. Who the bleep cares? Everyone says he's sincere, but everyone isn't sincere. This is Tennessee Williams. If everyone was sincere who says he's sincere, there wouldn't be half so many insincere ones in the world, and there would be lots more of sincere ones. Tennessee Williams. You have to show them. Obviously, you don't want to wait until they're customers to show them, because then that would put you in the classic catch-22 situation. But you do have to demonstrate it with your words. Don't be stating the obvious, right? By the way, you'll know how to use your computer better after you have our computer training. It's like saying you'll have more groceries after shopping in our grocery store. Your hair will be shorter after you get a haircut at our hair salon, right? As my kids would say, duh, right? You're wasting the few seconds of attention that you have before they turn the channel on you. So what is the business script missing? What is show business? Well, as I've said, all business is show business. But what is show business? What's a song, a movie, a story? What is it? It's a story. Yes, a story. That's what the business script is missing. The story. How do you add stories to your business? Add them to your speeches, your infomercial, how you dress, your business name, your brochure. Why add them? Your website. Why add them? Because stories create intimacy. They're captivating, and they create a connection between you and your audience. Helicopter? I think so. But most importantly, they keep you interested. They keep people on your channel. Even, ever see a movie without a plot? Bet you didn't stick around for the credits. So where do you find these stories? You have to go digging for them, right? You have to dig for color and for flavor. Before you know it, you will have unearthed your story. I'll give you an example. Color Me Red. One of my clients had to give a fairly dry, boring how-to speech to a group of professional speakers, and she wasn't even a professional speaker herself. So she was really nervous about this, really anxious, because the last few times she spoke in public, she bombed. So she went digging for color, and she came to me, and we found it on a tomato farm. When I interviewed her, I found out she grew up on a tomato farm, and when she was just 8 years, so she used to help her dad pick the tomatoes, whatever. She was just 8 years old, and her dad took her to market with him. And she's been sorting and helping her dad pick tomatoes. Tomatoes are colorful, and it occurred to me that her job now was to pick speakers and bring them to market. So we told this whole story about her growing up on a farm, and we used a tomato analogy to make her point about speakers, about how some are still too green, they're not ripe yet, some are ripe and juicy, and others are just plain rotten. Her speech was a huge success. There was a whole lineup of people waiting to speak to her afterwards, a huge hit. She didn't realize it, but the color had been there all along. She just didn't access it. You need to use color every single time you open your mouth. But what if you don't have any color, right? I know you're asking yourself this. You're saying, yeah, fine, tomato farm, whatever. I didn't grow up on a tomato farm, Tsufit. Well, you do have color. You know this, right? Everyone has color. You just have to dig for it. You just have to find a story. I just got off the phone with one of my editors. This was back when I wrote the book. Her name was Karen, before Karen meant Karen. And all our dealings so far have been on the phone. I must admit, when we first spoke, I was a little concerned she might be a little too conservative to connect with my voice, because I am not conservative. After all, she grew up in Britain. She was a member of the Potter's Guild. So I misplaced her phone number, so I had to Google search her. And when I Googled her, I found this article that she had written about a long stint she spent moaning for money as a phone sex operator to repay her student loans, right? Everyone's got a story. Find yours and have the courage to tell it. The difference between stars and bit players is often finding the courage to tell your story, having the confidence that your audience will find it interesting, will find you interesting, will find you entertaining. Where does that confidence come from? There's an old saying, appetite comes with eating. Well, I say confidence comes with the telling. You might be taking a risk at first, but when you start to see your audience warm up to you, you'll know it's a risk worth taking. The spotlight is not going to shine on you unless you attract it. So that was the first part of chapter 4, and we ended on page 105. We're going to start with part 2 of chapter 4 on page 106 in our next episode. This has been Step into the Spotlight, a guide to getting noticed. If you want your very own copy of the hardcover book, you can find how to get it in the show notes. You can get it cases of 20 if you want to give it to your staff, you want to give it out as gifts. You can find that as well in the show notes. Until then, this is Tsufit, and I will see you in the spotlight. Ciao, ciao.